The first light of dawn spilled over the Himalayan foothills, turning the orchards of Kashmir into a sea of gold and green. Amid the murmuring streams and the quiet rustle of willow trees, a boy was born whose name would endure for 2 millennia. Charaka, the Wanderer. No one recorded the exact day or year of his birth, but tradition places it somewhere around 300 BCE. His lifespan seems to defy tidy timelines. Some accounts suggest he lived well into the 2nd century CE, as if time itself refused to end the work of a man whose purpose was never truly finished. From his earliest days, Charaka's world was filled with the scents of damp earth, wild mint, and boiling decoctions of roots and leaves. His grandmother, the keeper of family remedies, would crush herbs between her palms and let him breathe their sharp fragrance. She would point out plants by the riverside, ashwagandha to calm the mind, neem to purify the blood, and speak of their powers not as superstition but as tools for healing. These childhood lessons planted the seeds of a life's journey. Kashmir's mountains could not hold a mind as restless as Charaka's. Still a young man, he set out across the dusty roads of northern India, moving from village to village, watching healers work, asking questions that startled them with their precision. His travels eventually carried him to the great city of Taxila in the Punjab region, home to one of the most famous centers of learning in the ancient world. Taxila was unlike anything he had seen, its streets alive with debate, its courtyards crowded with Greek philosophers, Persian astronomers, and Indian sages. In this melting pot of ideas, Charaka came under the influence of the legendary physician Atreya, or rather the teachings Atreya had left to his disciples. These teachings had been collected in a text known as the Ayurvedic Samhita, a vast storehouse of medical knowledge. Charaka absorbed the text but refused to be merely a scribe of tradition. He tested every claim he could against observation, pitting inherited wisdom against the evidence of his senses. He spoke with wandering herbalists, temple physicians, and reclusive forest healers. He walked the borders where medicine became philosophy, and philosophy returned to medicine. Word of Charaka's skill traveled fast. It reached the glittering court of King Kanishka, ruler of the Kushan Empire, a patron of art, religion, and scholarship. Summoned to the royal palace in Peshawar, Charaka entered a world of silk-draped halls, perfumed gardens, and foreign emissaries, speaking in tongues he barely recognized. The work was as challenging as it was prestigious. He tended not just to the king's body but to his mind, and not just to the royal family but to dignitaries, generals, and visiting scholars. For Charaka, the palace was not a retreat from the world, it was a crossroads where the health of an empire converged on the mind of one man. In the court's marble chambers, he championed ideas that unsettled the fatalists of his day. Disease, he argued, was not preordained. Illness could be prevented if one lived with balance, discipline, and awareness. This philosophy challenged centuries of belief that health was the whim of the gods alone. During these years, Charaka embarked on what would become his life's defining labor, revising and expanding the Ayurvedic Samhita into a work of astonishing breadth and depth. The result was the Charaka Samhita, a Sanskrit masterpiece that became one of the 3 foundational texts of Ayurveda. Its scope was staggering. Causes of disease, from food and environment to emotion and habit. Methods of diagnosis, examining the pulse, the tongue, the eyes, the patient's history. Treatment, herbs, diets, oils, and physical therapies. Anatomy and physiology, describing 360 bones, including teeth, identifying the heart as the control center, linked by 13 vital channels. The text's heartbeat was its philosophy of 3 doshas: Vata, air; Pitta, fire; and Kapha, water. To Charaka, these were not abstract forces, but the governing energies of the human body. Illness arose when one or more fell out of harmony. Restoring balance was the healer's mission, and it demanded a full recalibration of life, tailoring diet to the patient's unique constitution, selecting herbs for their subtle qualities and energies. The Charaka Samhita was as much a moral treatise as it was a medical one. It warned against arrogance, greed, and prejudice in the practice of healing. A physician without compassion, Charaka wrote, is like a cloud without rain. He also recognized something few others in his age articulated, that each patient was unique. The same illness might require different treatments for different bodies. The power of Charaka's work did not stop at the Kushan borders. Traders, monks, and scholars carried copies of the Charaka Samhita westward. where it was eventually translated into Arabic during the Islamic Golden Age. From there, it entered Latin in medieval Europe, influencing Western medicine long after Charaka's own age had passed. What became of Charaka in his final years remains a mystery. Some say he returned to the road, visiting the villages and forests where he had first learned the language of plants. Others picture him in seclusion, refining the last verses of his Samhita and training a small circle of devoted students. It is said he died sometime around 200 CE, perhaps in the same northern valleys where his life began. More than 2,000 years later, the Charaka Samhita is still studied, not as a relic, but as a living text. Its verses still guide Ayurvedic physicians. Its philosophy still shapes the thinking of wellness practitioners worldwide. He remains the archetype of the healer scholar, observant, curious, humble before nature's complexity, unyielding in service to life. His name, the Wanderer, suits him well. For the road of healing is endless, and Charaka is still on it, step after step, patient after patient, age after age.